like far more done and stuff, you know, like far more like accomplishments in their area, I'd say.
Fair enough. I know sometimes I definitely get imposter syndrome too. Did anyone else want to share a little bit about their own experiences? Yeah.
Yeah. In different situation, I feel with low self-esteem because I meet good students in my university, and it's, oh my god, this guy so doing many things and I'm doing anything. So yeah, it's like not be sure of themselves, but I'm working to this point in my life. So yeah, because and the reason why I'm here, it's because yeah, I need more sure of myself.
Thank you so much for sharing. Definitely comparisons and definitely some sort of esteem when it comes to your own life. Absolutely. Did anyone else want to share anything regarding, you know, what do you think causes imposter syndrome?
I think in my case, for example, when I have a goal, then sometimes, for example, in English, I doubt to my skills, right? I think this is the imposter syndrome. Yeah.
Thank you. Absolutely. Anyone else?
So I believe when you put negative thoughts on it, and the things that you planning to do maybe contribute the imposter syndrome. First of all, I think you needed to believe in yourself first, and know that everything that happened in your life has a purpose, you know, and even though it's a good idea or negative one, but you need to believe in yourself first, and then the things is going to be all right. And of course, avoid the imposter syndrome.
Thank you guys so much. You guys are already on the ball. You guys understand the topics already. So thank you guys for sharing. I'm going to share a little bit about some of the more professional studies about imposter syndrome, about the factors. If you've played Among Us, I don't doubt some of you have seen imposter before, also known as sus. I don't know what people call these things. When imposter syndrome was first conceptualized, it was actually a common phenomenon among high-achieving females. So this is in the context of high-performing jobs, college, honestly, anywhere of high-performing status, specifically women. Additionally, it's kind of come up a little bit for a lot of ethnic minority students. A lot of them often question the grounds on which they were accepted into, let's say, a university program, maybe the university itself, another job, whatnot. They held the false assumption that they only received their acceptance due to something called affirmative action, which I'm not too familiar if Mexican universities have a similar policy, though I know in the US it's become a bit of a debate, rather than the application or the qualities they have. So that's kind of who's most susceptible to imposter syndrome, and a lot of these identities can be intersectional. So here are some of the connections of certain things that can lead to imposter syndrome, according to current research. So I'm sure a lot of you guys have experienced some of these. I'm just going to list them quickly. We have family expectations, overprotective parents or guardians, Graduate level coursework. This one is a little surprising for me, though this is definitely applicable if you're taking higher courses for your major and you're surrounded by a lot of people that are a lot older or supposedly a lot more experienced in life than you. Racial identities, attribution style, anxiety, depression, self-esteem, maybe you're a perfectionist, and excessive self-monitoring. So a lot of these I'm sure you guys have experienced in your time. I know I definitely have. I'm sure George is too. And these are just some of like the main factors that people associate with imposter phenomena or syndrome. So this is where we get to the next part of our webinar today. Do universities emphasize multiculturalism and equity? So this is actually a question for me and George to kind of piece through as we kind of talk about ways that we can reduce imposter syndrome for maybe some people that aren't necessarily the majority in academia or in the workforce. So George, I mean, you're also a Chicago student. You've been at the university longer than me. Do you think UChicago emphasizes these factors? Yes, no, why?
They definitely do to an extent, and from what I understand, compared to like even other like even like other Ivy Leagues or other like universities that have emphasis on diversity, from what I understand, UChicago manages to be even like more diverse in its like students than like other places. So I do feel like it does, at least UChicago does emphasize like more of that equity sort of thing and multiculturalism.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think I saw like a statistic somewhere that UChicago is like one of the most, if not the most diverse top school out of like the T20. T20 just means for top 20. So that is a good thing. But I will say, obviously, universities can always do more. As we know, universities have a lot of money, they have a lot of influence over the pre-professional world as well as academia. So these are just some factors that we kind of have to consider when we're looking at universities. And I actually have another question. So since we've kind of concluded UChicago is, equitable and diverse in, in some respects, maybe lacks in a few others. But I wanted to ask you, George, what organizations and multicultural initiatives are you involved in?
I hadn't actually gotten to get involved in some of these personally, although I do plan on like looking more into these in like this coming year, since well, my work will be easier for one. But yeah, that's for me.
Okay, well, that's all right. I feel like most UChicago students are too busy anyway. That's kind of our stereotype because we don't really get involved. But I guess like for context for me, when you guys are applying to universities, I think it's really important to look at groups where you want to feel included or like people are similar to you. What does that mean? So I know UChicago, I will show you guys later. We have pictures. We have a lot of organizations, like cultural organizations. So allow me to show you guys. Here are some of the resources if you're looking for diversity in terms of, racial identity, cultural identity, gender identity, like list goes on. There's so many things. So where do we start? On the left, I have the main administrative offices and organizations on campus. I have been involved in a lot of these, so if you have any specific questions about these, let me know. So we have the Office of Multicultural Student Affairs. A lot of people don't realize that they actually help fund RSOs, especially cultural ones. So that's the first thing. LGBT student life, or some people I'm sure here say LGTB, same thing. For, sexuality and gender. Multicultural Student Advisory Committee. I believe this works within student government as well as admin. And we have international health. iHouse is kind of a dorm, but a lot of people don't realize it's also kind of an activist space in the technical sense. Like you can pursue internships through iHouse. So it was intended with the focus on advocating for international students, and it still kind of does, but it's also a dorm. So you might not be familiar with it if you don't live in iHouse, and that's fine because there's a lot of other resources. There's also student organizations. So when you guys are looking at your colleges that you want to apply to, and cultural identity is a really important thing to you, you want to meet other people like you, we have student organizations. This is a very small list of some of the ones that we have, but specific emphasis on some of these cultural organizations. Not all of them are in here, obviously, but I am involved in some of them. So African and Caribbean Students Association, I'm part of it. Kababayan at the bottom, you guys are probably wondering what is Kababayan. That's the Filipino/Filipino American student organization. We also have OLAS, and we have MECA, and we have Indigenous Students Association, which I actually founded last year. So yay. I mentioned OLAS. So OLAS is the organization of Latin American students. I know from the name, it sounds like Hola, but it's OLAS. And I guess it's kind of playing on that play of words on purpose, but they have a cultural show, which I was a part of last year. And they also have a bunch of events, and there's usually food. So if you guys like tacos, or you guys like trying local Chicago Latino businesses, then boom, OLAS is your place. I know you guys would probably like joining here. There's also a lot of international students in OLAS. Some are domestic, yet also racially identify as Latin American. So here's one of them. So we kind of mentioned this a little bit, but you guys are probably wondering, okay, how can I feel included when I go to university? So I have a bunch of things here. First, confidence. When you're in a space where you feel like someone or people don't look like you and you don't feel like you belong, confidence becomes really important and really essential to try to navigate through these spaces. How can I work on confidence? Well, confidence and self-love kind of go together. How can I practice self-love? Taking care of yourself, working out, eating better. When you feel better, you're going to be more confident, and you're going to want to show that to people, and people are going to notice. These two work hand in hand. That's why I put them at the top, so you guys can try to see to what extent you can improve on yourself to make sure you guys avoid the imposter syndrome. What else? Surround yourself with people that understand what you're going through. When I went to college, I didn't really emphasize this because I was always the kind of person that I can do things on my own. I don't need anybody. But sometimes you are going to need someone who just kind of gets it, especially if you're first generation, especially if you're low income, especially if like most of your friends are probably going to be more affluent than you if you're going to an elite university. And that's what most of my friends are. So sometimes you're going to need that cultural group or that organization of people that are kind of similar, usually on the basis of their identity. Professional help. I know this one's a bit iffy, and especially if you're low income, you might not really know how this stuff works, and that's okay. I've gone through it. Your university will offer different methods to help you. We'll work with whatever financial plans you have. And sometimes if it's another underlying issue like depression, anxiety, you can meet with people to come help you with them. In fact, I think most people, probably from my background, like if you're low income or you're first generation, your first exposure to mental health support is probably going to be in college, because most of us don't really have the means to do it otherwise, but some do, and that's a good thing, but some of us not. But university is a place to start. Emphasis on a place to start, because you might not be completely satisfactory with the fact that a university can't provide like long-term treatment. So you might get a referral, and that's a big thing at U Chicago, probably at a lot of other elite schools too. This kind of goes hand in hand with the third one, but I think when it comes to imposter syndrome, a lot of people experience it too. Not everyone. I didn't think I had imposter syndrome until like maybe when I got to college. It took me a bit, but it can help in some ways to realize that a lot of people are experiencing the same thing. They just don't talk about it. That's kind of a problem in itself. But when you meet with your friends, when you start getting closer with people, it really does help to know that for some things, a lot of people are going through it too. And if not like the whole university, at least within your circle of people. Absolutely. There's at least one other person that's going through what you're going through. That way you don't feel as lonely. And I think that's really important, you know, if you're stepping into a place that doesn't really seem like it's made for you. Additionally, we have cultural and political organizations I mentioned. You want to find groups of organizations or people that fit into your values. Identify administration departments that actively contribute to helping with students from unique backgrounds. Additionally, talk to as many people as possible before university. So the best way to feel included is to find a lot of people and talk to them and get to know them. How can you do this? Well, you have social media now. I think most people have been using social media. Sometimes people host in-person regional meet and greets, some of the more popular places, Los Angeles, New York, Texas. Maybe you're not in those areas. Maybe you're in Mexico, like most of you are, or in a completely different part of the world. There are actually international student regional meet and greets right before classes start. Make sure you look through the international students office at your university to make sure that you understand, you know, how I can meet more people. How can I stay involved? How can I help other people? Stuff like that. So here are some of the things I included when we're trying to combat ways of fighting imposter syndrome. George, I don't know if you wanted to bring up anything I missed.
I think you covered I think you honestly covered most of the bases, but in my case, part of like I guess dealing with my imposter syndrome is like I guess just engaging with, I don't know. In my case, I don't know if it's like necessarily applicable, but part of how I've been slowly getting over mine in regards to like technology stuff is like taking classes and getting and like mostly already understanding what's like being explained or having an easier time with it already to begin with, as well as just like trying to pursue the things that I'm like that I was like I guess you could say insecure about, like studying coding stuff on my own as well, or pursuing that sort of thing. But that's just what I did in my case somewhat for dealing with imposter syndrome.
Would you say like your imposter syndrome's like been completely gone?
More or less. It's just I'm not so much concerned about it now. It's more so just concerned about like I guess like building up like I guess a portfolio of things of in regards into that regard. It's not so much worrying about like my abilities compared to others. But yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, I think that's a better way of looking at it. You might not fully get over imposter syndrome, but it does eventually get better, or it just transfers into other things. Like George mentioned a portfolio, right? Because sometimes you'll be kind of cognizant. I know that's a big word, gosh, sorry. You'll be aware of the words or the skills or the things that you have on your resume, but translating that into actual professional experience and selling it is hard. So sometimes it'll go from something completely different. Maybe you already know you have these certain amount of skills. It's just a matter of, oh, great. Now I don't really know if my skills are good enough for this. And it goes all over again. But that's okay. It's perfectly normal to feel like you don't belong or your skills don't match a certain profile. But it does eventually subside, I think, especially if you're like a third or fourth year. Probably even by second year, you're kind of over it and you know what to expect, but absolutely. Okay, so I have a question for you guys before we get to a Q&A and before I go back to the slides where we have all the information on how you can reach out to different organizations, specifically at UChicago, or what to look for. So I wanted you guys to share a little bit how do you guys feel now about inclusivity in college? And do you guys feel like you guys can navigate these spaces better?
I feel good in my campus. I'm studying in Puebla. So the people are open mind, and I see many students with different hair or different clothes, and I don't care. And the students uh, think the same, like, oh, you're my partner or my, yeah, partner, and I don't care if you paint your hair in blue or your paint your I don't know, it's good, and the people, it's very nice with others.
That's awesome. I want to learn a little bit more about University of Mexico. You mentioned you go to Puebla. So like what was I gonna ask? So what kind of like initiatives helped you at your college with feeling more included and learning from others?
About what my decision in student in this university.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm from other city of Mexico, and when I research in the what page website, I like the school and the people and the career. So when I get in this place, I feel, oh my God, the school's so big, and okay, so I'm still here my every semester and finish my career. But it's good. It's so excited, and it's very nice, the institute.
I'm glad to hear. Thank you for sharing. I know I put you on the spot a little bit, and that's okay because perfect. So after this presentation, anyone else want to kind of share how they feel about inclusivity on college?
So I believe those space it's very important because in terms of to building your confidence about your future in the college. In that case, personally, I was more inclusive during my college. Nowadays, as a postgrad, I usually don't go frequent this space. It's not common my routine, but I know that I have different communities, inclusive Latino communities, can help the student, include the immigrant student or the student that just arrive at university. But I believe it's very important, and this space it's so constructive for you in terms of build your self environment with others, with native people in that case, because guys, it's very complicated when you arrive in a university in your environment. It's definitely different that they use it to be yours in terms of culture, language as well. It's so complicated to get used to. So, and then this space, it's important, in my opinion, to get involved in. And yeah, that's right.
Thank you for sharing so much. I think it's also really helpful, that you're a post-grad and you were able to share looking back on your experiences. Very thankful. Thank you. Anyone else had anything to respond to, what Weberton said or anything they personally feel? If not, that's okay. I understand it's a bit nerve-wracking to share in a language that's not your first. So here's our Q&A section. So this is where we can go back and forth at some of the slides if you wanted to screenshot or you missed information. Does anyone have any questions about some of the things we talked about today?
No, thank you.
I'm going to show you guys the other slides again, just in case. If you have any questions, just feel free to unmute. And yeah, so if you want to take a picture of this slide so you can look more into some of these organizations, see if they have some in your university. There you go.
So
Hi.
oh, sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
no. Oh, thank
No,
you.
go ahead.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Hi, Daniel. I didn't understand well why the connection or between imposter syndrome and multicultural diverse. Could you explain a little bit more about this? Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So it's one of the many factors. I think it's just the most prominent one, I think, that's connected. So we kind of talked about how imposter syndrome can be really a big problem, mostly for a lot of, minorities or women or non-binary students. So the connection is typically to help students with pursuing resources that can help alleviate imposter syndrome, which often affects a lot of people that are in those minority groups. So I started off with imposter syndrome just to make sure that we kind of understand it's normal. A lot of people that are minorities can experience this, as well as because of these other factors, but specific emphasis, I think, on being able to help, minority students. So multiculturalism just kind of helps people find their own connection to their community, find a cultural standing or a place of belonging. It doesn't have to be multicultural, of course. Some of the resources here I mentioned concern gender and other identities as well, but multiculturalism and diversity is the big one, because I think that's one of the ones that helps a lot of people in terms of finding people that also speak the same language or come from the same town, same city, same country, etc. And there's some cultural upbringing factors that kind of connect students better in terms of multicultural affairs to help them find a sense of belonging at that institution. Does that answer your question?
Yes, of course. That's more clear. Thank you.
I'm glad to help. I know someone else had a question. You can.
No, I don't have any question.
I have a question.
Sure.
These organizations, like their main goal is like to get together these people that have like a common background, I think. But other than that, what activities do they do, or how are they managed?
That's a great question. Probably something I should have brought up better. So I'm actually one of the presidents for one of the cultural organizations. I mentioned I'm the president, founder of Indigenous Students Association. There used to be a Native American Students Organization, but it disbanded. Very sad. But basically, there's potlucks, there's a lot of food. So even if you're not culturally identifying with, let's say, Chinese Undergraduate Students Association, I have definitely brought my friends to come eat whatever they want whenever there's an event. Kababayan, I mentioned I'm a part of. They have potlucks, they have movie viewings. They teach certain cultural activities. So I know sometimes they'll teach people how to speak Tagalog, or a lot of American-born Filipinos don't really know Tagalog because their family doesn't teach them, which mine didn't. I picked it up though. So they teach language, they teach certain cultural dances. I mentioned OLAS. They have a really big culture show on our campus, like every spring or so. It's like their spring concert. They have solo acts. I know they do a lot of dances. So some of the more common ones, bachata. I'm trying to remember what else they do. The main one I remember is bachata, because I think that's like the most popular one that people do. So a bunch of cultural dances, as you can imagine, singing, dancing, food, of course, a lot of education. I'm trying to remember. George, do you know anything else I'm missing?
No, I think you covered most of the bases for these kinds of organizations. So
Yeah, probably the only one I'm missing is like activism, but that's like depends on the organization. You know what I mean? I know Students for Palestine is like big on activism. So like think of like just trying to educate people on the general culture at that institution, and also advocating for them, if that answers your question. Does that answer your question?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, very fun. You don't, I also mentioned that you don't have to culturally be a part of some of these. It helps because it's intended for the people that identify, I don't know, in this example, let's say you're Armenian, you'll probably get more out of the organization if you're Armenian, but honestly, anyone can join these and it's fun. So, any other questions?
No, I don't think so. Thanks.
I have one, but actually it's a curiosity about this OLAS organization. So this organization could be founder for domestic student in a university, or necessary it is correlate, for example, the governmental or something, or any of the university exactly. For example, in my case, I can start making these OLAs in my university, or how works it?
No, yeah, perfect question. So I'm glad you asked. So depends on the organization. OLAS is actually a really big organization in a bunch of US universities. So you might find OLAS in like Yale or like, I don't know. I know I've seen Yale. Basically, this organization is almost universal at every American university. Can you form your own OLAS? Yes. I don't think there's a central website for OLAS. It's kind of just an assumed name that a lot of them have taken up. And it's just something that happens to be across a bunch of universities because of how widespread people liked it. So absolutely, you can start an OLAS at your university, in your community. You can use the name and there's no like copyright or legal issues with it. It doesn't mean you're necessarily affiliated with all the other ones. It's just, I think, a common student organization. There's no like branch, like, what's the word? There's no chapter for OLAS that you have to go to. You just go to your university and you tell them, okay, well, I want to start a organization. Woo-hoo. And then you fill out paperwork. You get other people interested. I know sometimes they ask for like a list of people just to make sure it's not like no one's joining. But yeah, you can absolutely make it anywhere. You don't have to like, the only thing, actually, great question. In terms of funding and support, each organization has a different relationship for the university. In UChicago's case, you do have to fill out some paperwork to get funding from the university specifically. So that means like filling out papers, asking people, talking to other people, looking on their website to see what you need to fill out, and it takes a bit of work. And it's kind of a surprise that we have 450 plus student-run organizations, because there's probably an interest for you somewhere. But yeah, you can use the name, and you don't have to like even be affiliated with other OLAFs across other colleges. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. I gotcha. It's interesting.
I'm glad. Anybody else have any questions or want me to show any other slide again?
I have another question, but it's like more personally.
Yeah.
I'm thinking on applying to U Chicago, but I'm not sure yet. So I I would like to ask you what made you like apply to U Chicago, or what made you like decide to go to that university?
Wow, you asked two of the most perfect people. Let's see. George, you are the enthusiastic third year here. Why did you apply to U Chicago?
Well, above all, like the main thing that was getting to me the most is reading about the culture and the sorts of things they got here, and that was a kind of a good fit for me, especially considering like fixation on foreign language, and also foreign language offerings in U Chicago, because they have like so many different languages you could take here. It's kind of crazy. Those are like some of the main pulling factors for me, actually. But yeah.
I think I'll summarize what George said in one word: nerds. We are a bunch of nerds. Like, our linguistics department is like the oldest in the country. Like, we are probably the center thought place for a majority of subjects: economics, history, anthro, linguistics. We're lacking on the STEM side, but we're getting a little better, aside from molecular, and also what else? I don't know. I think our chem isn't that bad. We have like our STEM's not that bad, but like if you're looking for like, I don't know, engineering, okay, maybe U Chicago is not for you, unless it's molecular. Yeah, as Carolina said, we're a bunch of nerds. Like, we're infamous for being smart and knowledge and being nerds, but there's nothing wrong with that, because people also like to have fun. Work hard, play hard, I think, is like a really popular thing here. People don't give us credit for that, I think. But what else? Okay, well, there's a lot of resources, obviously. We're an elite school, prestigious, connections. I actually got an internship just on the basis that not only was I a U Chicago student and the dude that interviewed me was U Chicago, we bonded about like how much the university is kind of lacking for like 20 minutes for my interview. And that was the interview. It wasn't even he didn't even doubt my skills. So clearly it comes with a weight. Yes, prestige, okay. I'll be real with you. People who say, oh my God, prestige doesn't matter. For a low income student, it does. I don't care what anybody says. It means something more if you're coming from a background that's not like, oh my gosh, my daddy works at JP Morgan. So smart, fun. Chicago's a great city. People keep roasting it. People are like, oh, it's a crime capital of the world. No, it's not. You just need to be smart. And you guys are smart. I mean, most of you guys are in Latin America. I'm sure you guys know how to take care of yourselves probably better than some of the people that come to Chicago. You're going to be fine. Chicago, I've never felt unsafe. Unless you're walking around at like, I don't know, 52nd at night. I don't know why you would, but you'd probably still be safe. What else? I could like simp about the school all the time. George, you want to bring up anything new before I continue my spiel?
And I don't got anything else right now, but yeah, you brought up the other good points there. Like, it's something other stuff that I was like also thinking about, but like the nerd thing was like one of the main deciding things for me to like apply. But yeah.
I have a question though. I mean, your Chicago isn't the best for computer science. So why did you study computer science here at Chicago?
It was still interesting to read about, and well, also the fact that I also want to pursue linguistics, because that's like another big thing of mine. But yeah.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. Core. If you are a nerd and you like studying a bunch of different things and you don't want to give up like one specific pathway, you can study whatever you want here in Chicago. It's interdisciplinary studies. A lot of American universities kind of focus on that, but we're kind of different. We have a core. So you can study a bunch of different things and it's really fun. I know I'm kind of picking up on data science, but we have that too. What else? It's a really diverse school for being an elite school. I feel like if I went to like Princeton or something, I'd be like, I don't know, shunned by the eating club kids. If you guys don't know, Princeton has something called eating club, and it's like the equivalent of Greek life, except worse, because it's like they don't even have good food. It's like it's specifically a cult. Greek life, if you guys think Greek life is a cult, we don't really have Greek life. It's kind of there. It exists. It's actually not as like, we're not as asocial as people think we are. But like at other elite schools, they have like eating clubs and stuff, and it's like kind of weird. That's a cult. That's a cult. Chicago doesn't really give me cult vibes. So yeah, does that answer your question? And are you still gonna apply to Chicago?
Yeah, it answers my question better than I thought. Thank
Oh my
you.
gosh, perfect. Speaking of which, if you guys have questions about Chicago, you guys can also ask us that because I love Chicago so much. Woohoo! Probably more than most people. So do you guys have any other questions? It can be something funny too. It doesn't have to be serious. You can just ask us how the food is. No more questions? Okay. Actually, let me check my contact info if you guys have questions. So if you guys have Instagram or an email, you guys can just reach out to me if you guys have more questions about this kind of stuff. Okay, yeah, there we go. Someone asked it. Okay, now I have an excuse to talk more. How's the food? George, how's the food?
Pretty banger. Like in specific, especially in like Chinatown, because that's where I went primarily.
No, campus food, man. We're asking campus food.
Oh, for campus food,
Chinatown don't coming.
okay. Well, yeah, I'm talking about Chicago overall, but campus food's like to put it simply, it's kind of mid, but it's fine.
Okay, well, I'm glad George and I have very similar tastes because you will probably get bored of dining hall food. I mean, that's not their fault. I think, okay, your Chicago dining food is like banger, but it does get boring after a
Yeah,
while.
that's the
the
main thing. Yeah.
problem. Like, it's not that like it's bad. It's just like sometimes you're eating the same stuff and it's like, I want to try something new. So you are in Chicago if you're a Chicago student, and you're in the South Side, which has a lot of good local businesses. Harold's Chicken, Budlong Chicken. 53rd has tons of crap. Sorry, sushi, ramen, Cajun/Indian food. Like they'll serve you masala with fried chicken. I don't know how people think of this stuff. You have Chinatown, you got boba, you got matcha cake if you want. You got like Chinese food out the wazoo. If you're Central American, you got pupusas in like West Chicago. In North Chicago, you got Honduran food. There's literally so much stuff to eat. So let's say you're bored. You can Uber, you can drive to wherever place you want to go, find food. There's food on campus, like restaurants and stuff. Food is banger. So thank you for asking that question. So I have an excuse to talk more about my amazing university. What else? Yeah, I mean, dining hall food is not that bad. It's pretty fresh. Also, they outsource to a lot of like local restaurants that like.
Oh yeah, they do that on like Saturdays too. Yeah.
I forgot to mention, George, have you ever been to the dining hall when they had like the Michelin star chef?
I unfortunately did not get to go at that time, but I heard about it. It's crazy.
You went twice too. You wanna flex to all your friends? Okay. You get into Chicago, that's a flex in itself. But we have Michelin star people come in sometimes and cater. One time I just walked in the dining hall and the line was like all the way out to like outside. And I was like, why? Why are there so many people? They got like a Vietnamese chef dude that had like 3 Michelin stars to cook for people. And it was like the best thing I ever ate. I had like 10 chicken wings that day. So I don't know any other universities that have Michelin star caterers or local Chicago businesses, but come to Chicago because we do. And you can flex to all your friends. Anyways, last bit for questions before I simp more. If not, I put my contact info in the chat so you guys can reach out. We have a professional networking webinar. It was supposed to be a student panel, but other person canceled last minute. That's okay. It's also my birthday, so you guys have to tell me happy birthday when you come to this one. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But yes, same time, professional networking. Do you want to become a networking pro at LinkedIn, Greek Live, social media? Boom, I'm your expert. I will show you, I will walk you through LinkedIn. George, do you use LinkedIn?
I've yet to like properly set it up, but I have to come actually.
That's okay. LinkedIn sucks. It's only good for professional networking, but you
Pretty
will be
much.
a pro at it. So come to this webinar. I think it's really important. I don't think a lot of people are good at networking, but I am. So you're in luck, and it's my birthday. So extra incentive for you to come. And with that, you guys are all dismissed. Thank you all for coming today. And I can't wait to see you guys for our upcoming session. And have a great day, you guys.
Yeah, see you all. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Bye. See you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, guys. That was good.